Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to CES. My name is Ryan Linder, Executive Vice President, Global Chief Marketing Officer of Stagwell. We've got massive snow in the Northeast. I just got back from 21 power-packed hours in Las Vegas, and one of my four sons is upstairs with COVID. Just another Friday in our new reality. While this isn't quite what we expected by way of CES this year, we are happy that you're here to join us for our 7th annual floor tour. These floor tours come highly coveted. You're in for a great ride today. Today, we'll be following the virtual path of the CES floor at the Las Vegas Convention Center and the Venetian, covering all the must-know announcements and technologies from CES 2022. This session will last about an hour, and we have time for questions at the end, so please drop them into the chat along the way, and we'll be sure to open up the floor for questions towards the end of our time together. Now, before we jump in, a little bit about Stagwell. In August 21, Stagwell and MDC partners combined to create a challenger network built to transform marketing, to deliver excellence for the world's most ambitious brands by connecting culture-moving creativity with leading-edge technology. So why are we at CES this year? We believe the technologies debuting here will transform the way consumers get and share information, engage with brands, and experience culture. For our tour this morning, we'll be led by 3 industry experts, folks that I am honored and privileged to call colleagues, that are deep in the technologies we'll be discussing, and most importantly, their implications for marketers. Jeff Minsky, editor and lead industry analyst at the Myers Report and 20-year veteran of CES. James Townsend, global CEO of the Stagwell Media Network, a group of leading omnichannel media agencies, home to more than 3,000 experts with an expansive global footprint across 40 offices, 20 countries, and managing close to $5 billion in media. Last but not least, my good friend Deirdre McLaughlin, Chief Media Officer of the Stagwell Media Network. So at the end of this tour, we hope you leave with 3 things. 1, inspiration. This is the vanguard of technology, driven by some of the brightest and most creative thinkers in the world. 2, ideation. What can we learn from the way technologists think about the world? What does the latest tech reflect about what brands and consumers are looking for in this new world order? And 3, most important, what are the implications? What this means for me as a marketer today, tomorrow, and in 10 years. So with that, I'm going to sign off from Miami, and I'm going to turn it over to my good friend Jeff Minsky to take us away. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan. And Ryan, before we get started, I'm sure all of us wish your son a very, very full and speedy recovery. So positive thoughts going that way.
No, you're a good man. Thank you.
Everybody, welcome to CES 2022, live from downtown Livingston, New Jersey. But we're there in spirit in Las Vegas. It is the 55th annual, 55 years of innovation and technology and inspiration. It's really exciting. And I have to say, you look at a typical year, this is what you would see, about 180,000 average attendees per year. This year, if you look on the right, now that's not really a picture of what it looks like currently, but it is definitely downscaled from where it was last year. Certainly the last couple of weeks before CES, several big names did pull out, but they are attending virtually. It was always the plan to have a virtual CES as well. So it's the best of both worlds this year. And what you're going to get on this tour is a really great view of all the amazing innovation and technology that is being showed at the convention, but you will not get sore feet. You will not have to pay $7 for a bottle of water. And I promise you that unless you're on FanDuel right now or sometime during the day, you're going to leave the day with as much money as you started out with. So no worries about stopping at a table on the way. I want to give you a quick overview of what CES looks like. It's it's the world's largest convention. And it's divided into 3 areas. The Las Vegas Convention Center really is the heart of CES. And within that, Central Hall is the core. Central Hall is where you have the largest consumer electronics manufacturers showing their wares. Samsung, LG, Sony, Panasonic. And then you move over to North Hall, which traditionally had been automotive, but there's a brand new section of the Las Vegas Convention Center called West Hall that opened up this year. So they moved automotive to West Hall, and they moved a lot of the innovations in beauty and healthcare, and a couple of new sections for financial tech, fintech. So a lot of NFT things going on in there, and space tech, which is another first for CES. Moving over to the Venetian, you have startups. It's really the hub of international, and the international countries really hold a lot of competitions for the privilege to represent their nation at CES. So it's really innovative. It's incredibly cool stuff, and we'll get into that. And then a few years ago, us marketers decided, well, we like to start off the year in Las Vegas and get inspiration. And that actually started back in the 80s and 90s, when you had a lot of change going on to the television sets. The evolution of television was happening so quickly. Everyone wanted to know that DVR was launched at CES. Every year it was a race to see how large the screen could get. And because it was hitting the core ad expenditure for marketers, they wanted to know what was going on. And it became a tradition to have top-to-top meetings with some of the top media publishers at CES. And so they broke away apart in the ARIA that is dedicated to CES. And Stagwell actually has presence this week at the ARIA, and we will talk about that as well. So again, I just want to reiterate what Ryan mentioned beforehand. If you have any questions, please throughout, just put them into the chat box, and we will get to them at the end of this. But as I mentioned, Central Hall really is the core. So let's take a long walk through the grand lobby. We're going to go walk down, and we're going to hit the first booth. But before we hit the first booth, I want to give you the overview. So the overview here is of what you're going to see in Central Hall and the themes. We're seeing the transition to 8K. Some of the numbers of the Consumer Tech Association released this week indicate that 4K has peaked and 8K is now sort of starting to grow. This doesn't mean that you need to be producing all your video content in 8K yet. There's not scale there yet. It does mean that unlike the first days of high def, when advertisers were late to the game and actually upgrading their creative into high def, you have an opportunity now to make sure that everything is in 4K. The trend on televisions are larger and larger every year. There's a proliferation now of walled gardens. The app ecosystems in your TV, the smart TV, has really evolved. You'd be hard pressed to find a TV that does not have a smart app ecosystem, and consumer behavior has learned that ecosystem is there and it is easy to use. And so there's a lot of data, and the manufacturers have woken up to the fact that there's money and revenue to be made there. Central Hall is a microcosm of geopolitical and geoeconomic positions. I've been going, as Ryan mentioned, for over 20 years. And you start to see the transition of which countries are focused in. That is an indicator of their economic strength in the consumer electronics area. So in the 70s, you had things like Magnavox and GE and RCA. In the 80s and 90s, you started to get Japan come in with Sony and Mitsubishi and Toshiba. In the late 90s and 2000s, Samsung all of a sudden and LG. So Korea became the focus. And lately, it's been TCL, Hisense, and Huawei and others that are Chinese companies. So you start to see the geopolitical and geoeconomic positions there. Over the past couple of years, we have really relied on our home theaters. The shortening of windows from theatrical, the inability to go to a movie. And so that has redefined the dynamics, and people have upgraded their television sets. Over 40 million TV sets were sold in 2020, 38 million in 2021. The number has never really gone in the past 20 years below 35 million. But again, the importance of the TV, and the majority of those sets are large. And then TV co-viewing, you're going to see a lot of viewing parties, shared viewing opportunities, which you already get when on your laptops, but now are directly on the television set. All right. So our first stop today on the tour is Sony. Sony, you're going to walk in, you're going to see a huge area, and you've got a EV. They announced their first electric vehicle, a prototype, the Vision S02. They've now launched Sony Mobility, which is a official division for a car. So this is not in their mind going to be just a prototype. They do intend to manufacture at some point a line of cars. So keep an eye on that. But the most exciting announcement for anyone who's a VR enthusiast like myself is the announcement of the long-awaited PSVR 2. We'd hoped that would have happened when PS5 was released, but it didn't. But now we know in 2022 there will be an updated version. It includes new Sense haptic controllers. It has 110-degree FOV. It is still tethered. It still has a cord to the PS5, unlike the Oculus Quest, which is no cords. But because it's tethered to the PS5, this time with one cord versus the previous four, it is super powered. It's going to be hyper realistic, and it's really exciting. No date or price yet, but definitely being released in 2022. And there is going to be an exclusive game. Horizon Worlds is going to be exclusive to PSVR 2. All right, we're going to leave the Sony booth, and we're going to move now to a small booth that is highlighting an important technology. Every television ever built has to adhere to American television standards, and ATSC3 is the newest standard that is being built in now to every set that will be sold. The difference is, instead of just being able to receive over-the-air signals, it now combines the over-the-air signal with IP connectivity, and now local broadcast over-the-air television, both from a content perspective and an advertising perspective, is two-way, allowing for addressable and interactivity. We saw a couple of sets last year start to roll out, but now most every set will have that in. There are 60 markets that have local broadcasters upgraded the signals to be able to be ATSC3 or Next Gen TV, which is the consumer brand that you'll see, compatible. And 60 more will be launching this year. But again, addressability and interactivity, as you would have on any IP environment, will now be available on over-the-air local broadcast. Samsung, as I mentioned, is one of the core companies at CES. And if you think about the breadth and depth, if you include their phones, and they did actually announce the FE version, the fan edition of the Samsung Galaxy 21. But if you think of their massive footprint in mobile, their massive footprint in televisions, their smart TV ecosystem, they're one of the largest first-party media data companies in the world. Through their glass, whether on phone or on television, they are able to see not just what you watch on television, but what games you play online, and anything that is being passed through that screen, they have the data on. And it's their legitimate first-party data that they can use for retargeting through their Samsung Ads organization. They also announced that you as a marketer can now bring your first party data and attach that to their targeting capability within their ad ecosystem. From a consumer perspective, they've also added a game hub. Everyone seems to be this year leaning into adding games onto your television set, high quality, PC quality games. And as we move into a 5G world, the real question that a lot of people are asking is, with 5G and embedded games on television sets, do we even need consoles anymore? And that's going to be a really interesting thing to see going forward. Another thing that Samsung has leaned in on is sort of owned this lifestyle TV market. And this lifestyle TV market, they have a TV called The Frame. When the TV is off, it cycles through brilliant pieces of artwork, and the TV is structured so the art looks really, really high quality and real. Well, they've now added an NFT marketplace, so you can buy, sell NFTs through your television set, and you can cycle through your NFTs on The Frame and other sets as well. And the other thing that's interesting is they're adding live channels. Everyone is adding free ad-supported television to the mix. And that is going to be an interesting challenge as more and more live channels join these. Vizio's got it as well. The question is going to be, why do I still need the cable operator outside of the connectivity? So that's something we're going to be looking at going forward. LG, they want to be part of the new home lifestyle. We are at home more often. We are working from home. We're having video conferences at home. Let's have it on our TV set, but let's put that TV on wheels. And so that's what the Quick Flex does. It comes with the camera. You can turn the camera off if you just want to watch television. They also have a television called the Object. They were the ones that released the rollable set. You may remember the screen that can roll up roll up, roll down. They now have a screen that has a fabric that can move and cover the screen. But as it gets to a certain point, instead of watching video, the screen that's left will be an information hub that has the time, the weather, the forecast, the sports scores, if you don't want to have the entire TV showing. There's also an organization called Matter that many of these companies are part of, that is a open standard for connectivity between various connected devices. So you can take your phone, tap the TV, and move the content directly from the TV to your phone, or send it to another TV in another room very quickly. So if you have to go cook, you can move your Squid Games view over to the other kitchen television. We want to show you a couple of really cool concept televisions that they released. This is the Media Chair. It's designed for airport lounges and other exclusive clubs, but you can sit back, relax, lean back, and have a beautiful curved set. And if you don't want to watch it in landscape, you can switch it to portrait. If you are a Peloton owner, when you're biking on your Peloton, you're really going off of a 26-inch screen at best. Now you can have 3 55-inch screens, vertical, and really get that immersive feeling without the use of headsets. The other thing that LG has been showing for a few years is transparent OLED displays. And with a transparent OLED, which is really for retail, it's gone to a new level. It's gotten bigger, it's gotten more transparent and 45% transparency. And we believe that as people are starting to rebuild and reinvent the brick and mortar physical space, this is something we're going to see more often in retail. All right, so before we go to North Hall, let me bring in my esteemed colleagues over here. James, Deirdre, what do you think about Central Hall and the future?
Well, breathless and brilliant, Jeff. Thank you for that fast start. Good morning, everybody. Well, look, I mean, there's some interesting elements there, aren't there? You know, no surprise really to see a kind of ever more sensorial, customizable, experiential, viewing opportunity coming from these companies. But I think you hit on a really interesting and potentially quite profound shift that's emerging, which is, software and hardware companies, screen-based companies could become the biggest media companies on the planet. And that's what I'm sort of hearing as I hear you talk through this. Their ability to not only provide you with a screen for every part of your day, but also connect that and have the permission to talk to you, gives them a huge opportunity and advantage in the market. I think we've obviously spent the last perhaps decade working through the triopoly and really working within the triopoly and those ecosystems. But perhaps there's a new emergent collection of those global scale players, admittedly coming from APAC in many respects, Samsung, LG, who are providing screens for every part of your day, who are connecting that ecosystem. I think one watchword for us as marketeers is actually, what does that create? Well, it creates more walled gardens, not less. They will have business models to protect and revenues to create, and that is in the value of the audiences that they're holding on to. So I think the ability to have a first-party data relationship with your customers, as well as being able to extrapolate that out within these environments, is clearly an opportunity, but also a real necessity for marketeers. So really exciting to see new entrants coming into the media ecosystem and new ecosystems emerging. Also, probably a watch out for us to make sure we're still focused on making sure we have that intimate relationship with our customers. Deirdre?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the media opportunities, the data opportunities are really exciting. But I think there's also some incredible brand and business opportunities that are emerging as well, because these screens are creating new spaces within homes, almost, portals into other things. Whereas a screen used to just mean video entertainment. But now they mean lifestyle, they mean utility. I might want to look up a recipe on the refrigerator. That shared viewing with friends, I think that's really important as well. So I think as we take a look at it, these are just new mental and emotional spaces for people in their homes that brands can now tell different stories. So I think as brands think about what does it feel like in this new space, what's their identity, what's their persona, it could potentially open up new brand and business opportunities, such as subscriptions or services or additional capabilities that brand might be bringing to consumers. So I think it's a fascinating space. It's really going to be a fun few years.
Yeah, I want to address one of the questions that someone brought up yesterday at one of our tours, and that is what about privacy? And the good news is that Vizio actually years ago took the hit on that. They were sued several times about data usage of viewing, and they went through the courts. They've got the privacy statements standardized now. Everything is now fine. Everyone, this has been legislated. This is all clear. So I think at this point we don't have to worry about that part of it. All right, let's move to North Hall. So we're going to walk across the Grand Corridor, Grand Lobby again. Across is North Hall, Health and Wellness, Smart Cities, Enterprise, FinTech, IoT, Space, and Robotics. The overview here, AI is in more devices than ever before. Even in the televisions, we didn't talk about that, but pretty much every television has either Alexa or a Google Assistant where you can speak and ask and control your television through voice. But every artificial intelligence is really getting into more devices than ever before. More products are moving from concept to reality, and this to me is actually one of the bigger trends, because as I've been to CES so often, you see so much stuff that is really conceptual, and very little of it is necessarily grounded and going to be released in the next 6 months. A lot of what we're seeing now is out there, or it will be out there in the next few months. And so this is really something that is not just 10 years away. There's still a couple things that are 10 years away, but for the most part, you're going to see things that can be put into action right now. Customization, personalization are a theme. Telehealth. Telehealth is a really big thing that's changed over the past 24 months, clearly. We have a very different relationship between patient and doctor than existed pre-pandemic. And so there are devices that are going to help enhance that relationship and make it easier for a doctor to get far more in-depth information, the same kind of information they could get about your health when you're at home on telehealth versus when you're actually, versus what you can do right now, because there's still parts of the office experience that have been missing. And finally, a really uber theme here is the marriage of AI and robotics, presenting real-world solutions to real-world issues that were exacerbated by the pandemic. Supply chain, infrastructure, we have serious challenges in the world right now that need to be addressed, and technology does seem to be moving forward, especially AI. I cannot stress that enough. But AI and the advancement of robotics is going to be a real help. Now, this may not be the #1 issue we're facing as a society, but it's pretty cool. The Rouge sur Mesure, powered by Perso, and really it's a L'Oreal affiliation, and it is an AI-powered at-home lipstick creation system. And certainly for my kids, I think they would say that this is a real-world problem that needs to be addressed immediately. But they can create thousands of custom Yves Saint Laurent shades of lipstick. Again, this idea of customization and personalization, and AI, and in the retail and beauty space. This can be yours for $477. I'm not sure how much lipstick you need, but with the ROI is there, but it is definitely out. All right, so P&G over the past few years has been very innovative and been attending CES. I mean, a packaged goods, a traditional CPG company, and they've had a massive space over the past few years. Unfortunately, they did decide not to actually attend physically, but they are there with P&G Life Lab. And I want to kind of just sort of take you through very quickly. It is a massive immersive system. It is not VR. It is on a desktop and a laptop or a phone, so you can log in. And I truly highly encourage you to go to pnglifelab.com and check it out. You design your avatar, you go through various different virtual worlds. Of course, they represent brands. Here you see a world where Gillette and Bugatti, they tell you the story of it. One of the most fun areas is the Crest world, where you are in a battle royale against General Decay. And so it's a lot of fun, and I actually hope they keep at least part of this up and running. But the really interesting part, and this is what I think is important for marketers to understand, this is staffed in real time by real people as avatars that you can have a conversation and ask questions about the brand. And I think that is a forerunner or a foreshadowing of what the metaverse is. The metaverse is not just VR, although it is definitely going to be VR. It's also VR, AR experiences, and even immersive experiences on your desktop and laptop, as well as just bringing the digital into the physical. P&G Beautysphere also had an immersive area there as well. From a telehealth perspective, as I mentioned, this redefining of the experiences between the doctor and the patient. If you remember Star Trek and the tricorder, this is kind of sort of like that on the MedWand. The MedWand is a multifunction device that supplements your telehealth. It allows you at home to check your temperature, your heart rate, your respiratory rate. It's a stethoscope. It is a 4K camera that allows the doctor, when you're on your telehealth, to look into your throat, to see your ears, to check your nose. The typical things you would do at a normal physical now can be done over Zoom. And a TenCare is a VR headset, and we want to stress that VR is definitely growing without question, and gaming is still very much a core part of VR, but it has so many other use cases, and the enterprise VR has been actually growing faster than the consumer VR. And here's a case, a TenCare, a digital therapeutic for diagnosis and treatment of ADHD. It has various different experiences in games to test where you are on the spectrum, and they have episodes that will help alleviate some of your ADHD symptoms. So again, just really a different view of VR. This marriage between AI and robotics, as I mentioned earlier, to help solve supply chain challenges. So, we all know, if you've been to a grocery store, you know that there are some areas that are more sparse than others. We do know there are lots of reasons for that. But this is just an incredible use of technology, not for technology's sake, but to solve an issue. John Deere, 160-year-old some odd tractor company has reinvented themselves as a robotics company. As using computer vision and machine learning, their tractors can differentiate between plants and weeds. And another huge theme across the board of CES is sustainability. This reduces pesticide use by 80%. It targets only the weeds, so your food isn't getting as much pesticide as it would normally. It really is just an incredible thing. During their keynote, they showed a farmer, and the farmer was talking about the fact that the average age of a farmer is upwards of 55 plus, and they have to work 12-hour days, and tractor work is really difficult. So autonomous vehicles that use computer vision and AI allow them to reduce the time they're on the tractor and go spend time figuring out other ways to grow the crop and have a better harvest. We've seen a lot of these robots. Some will go to vineyards and be able to harvest grapes. I mean, it really is, again, for when you have workers that have to call in sick because of COVID, those fields still have to be harvested, and these are some of the solutions that are available.
Amazing.
Now, this one I'm going to show very quickly, because this is everyone's dystopian nightmare, and is still so cool at the same time. This is real. Ameca, a humanoid robot, was shown for the first time. Again, why it matters to marketers: robots take jobs that humans don't want. We're seeing this quote-unquote great resignation. A lot of that's happening on low-paying jobs, and here is going to be eventually a solution: robots taking jobs that humans don't want. Again, and I urge you to actually go online and watch the clip, because if you can see the close-up of Ameca's face, the emotional expressions are human. The furrowing of the brow, it doesn't even have that uncanny valley issue of the eyes. You really start to get connected to this. So anyhow, those are the cool things in North Hall. Guys, what did you think?
Well, yes, dystopian and also amazing. I'm not sure if she or he is smiling, but I think she's smiling, or he's smiling. There's a lot there, isn't there, from sort of small to big. I mean, I think we're still seeing, I think there's an interesting tension emerging here around the customization points you've been making, Jeff, which is, brands remain a way for us to promote ourselves and identify and articulate ourselves to the outside world. But increasingly, we're blending that with our own desire to, customize and to make our own nuanced and niche versions of how we're kind of presenting ourselves through those brands. And I think that's something that's going to continue, that personalization agenda. I think the other thing that clearly through the prism of AI is emerging is the continued importance of not just data, but also the consequence of data, actionable insight. So on the L'Oreal example, that's perhaps learning what colors and what sort of particular products are going to be most interesting to people, but at a much more fundamental and profound level, you're looking at John Deere's innovation agenda. And I think there's obviously a mandate that we all have to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. But I think also what it provides is a couple of things. As I understand it, farming is a low margin business. And farmers are squeezed by retailers and by their business model. Well, 80% less use of an expensive asset like a pesticide, let alone the benefits that it brings to the environment. Huge shift in the fortunes of that sector and the individuals within it. So I think the ability for AI to provide efficiency and accuracy is really exciting. But also I think it opens up businesses like John Deere, as you said, from being an industrial producer of vehicles to being in the farming business, being in the ecology business, being in the sustainability business. Really exciting to see, and it really does open up propositions for businesses like that, hundreds of years old, now being able to open up into new sectors and be part of a solution that's fundamental to all of us.
Yeah, I love seeing brands there, the L'Oreal lipstick, absolutely. But I was also absolutely fascinated by the Life Labs by P&G. I spent a lot of time in there hanging out and chatting with some of the employees. But what I loved about it is that CES has always been a space, I think you talked about it earlier, Jeff, where you take things conceptually. Things you kind of project out, what might this be like? What are the baby steps to getting there in 5 years, that sort of thing. And so not only does Life Labs show how brands might be shown in a more immersive environment, but also it's a great harbinger to what customer service will look like. What does getting more product information look like, particularly as we move away from purely screen and reading and text-based things to more immersive experiences. So I was really excited to see that.
Awesome. All right, moving over to Westall Automotive. Ever since the Detroit Motor Show moved its date later in the year, CES has now sort of become the kickoff the year start of auto, and it's grown dramatically. Auto continues its march towards being a video, media, and workspace aperture. We all listen to radio over the years. That's nothing new. But the idea of a formalized video product, not just in the passenger backseat, with your kids watching iPads or tablets, whatever, but now built into the car, built into the passenger side in the front seat as well. Unique independent auto companies. This was one of my most favorite things that I saw. It's a new car. It's an electric vehicle, and we'll get to it in a second, but it's the way they are targeting millennials and Gen Zs. It's different. It's fresh. It doesn't feel like the same old auto commercial where you can just fill in the name of the brand of the car here, of a car driving really quickly around a curb, and so that's we'll get to in a second, but that was exciting. And really though, the real theme here besides electric vehicles is autonomy. Autonomous cars is very much a theme. It's happening, and yet again, another application of the intersection of AI, robotics, and data to solve consumer problems. So GM had a major keynote has a platform called the Ultium Effect. They introduced the first Chevy Silverado electric vehicle, but their whole platform is about technology driven by purpose. They want zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. And through data, AI, autonomy, they announced that their goal is to have the first consumer-ready autonomous vehicle by 2025. Lots of legal things that have to happen to make it allowable for consumers to have that on the road, but that's their goal. They're using the Qualcomm Snapdragon Ride platform for advanced driver assistance. Now, we all know right now that we have major issues if anyone who's tried to buy a car knows that there's a major issue because of the semiconductor chips. But Qualcomm really is just the leader in AI chips, and it's going to be very interesting to see how quickly they're able to integrate this and launch. But they are the ones that announced a while ago they were going to all electric. Now this is something really cool. This is BMW's iX Flow. You don't like the shade of gray or the shade of black your car is in today? Push a button and you can automatically change it. The entire car exterior is outfitted with the same kind of technology that your Amazon Kindle uses, the e-ink technology. There's also color e-ink technology available, so I would not be surprised in a couple of years to see them come out with a concept car that has color e-ink, so you can choose the color of the exact color of your car. But again, something we've never seen before, something that's innovative, that takes use of technology and is about customization and personalization. Now, Google's Waymo, that's their automated car division, automated technology division, has partnered with UPS to provide self-driving fleet of delivery vehicles. That's been happening for about a year already. They're upgrading that to Class 8 autonomous trucks. So one of the things we saw here is the infrastructure of the trucking system. We know there's been a truck driver shortage overall. So UPS is also testing a fleet of trucks powered by TuSimple, which is a back-end technology for a national trucking infrastructure data platform that can control the autonomous trucks. So Google, TuSimple, lots of companies are trying to tackle this trucker shortage issue and change the infrastructure of our economy. So this was one I was all excited about with the millennial targeting and Gen Z targeting. So it's called Independent Electric Vehicle. That's the name of the company. Indy1 is the car, and it's a 5-passenger family crossover, an electric vehicle. Again, targeted to cool, young, hip, Gen Z and millennials. Yeah, I really urge you to check out their website, because their website looks like no other car website that you've seen. And I guess one of the hints that got me excited is, instead of just throwing you to your typical Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, the first social media is this kind of edgier, cutting edge, up and coming one called Discord. If you're a gamer, you're familiar with it. But if you're not, Discord has been growing pretty rapidly. Their mantra is, you do you, we'll do the car. It's the first car that is a fully integrated supercomputer with AI to learn your habits. And what I want to point out is, on the lower picture, you'll see the dashboard. For the passenger side, not only can you watch any entertainment you want to watch, but we're a creator economy. Every one of us is creating almost constantly and uploading our creations. So now you can take feeds from both the exterior and the interior cameras in the car to incorporate that into your posts or into your content. And you can also edit on this screen. There's some issues that we would want to talk about in terms of how distracted does that make the driver. But it really is, again, this idea of the workspace coming into your car, not just for entertainment. MSRP doesn't seem crazy. It's $45,000. And again, this car was built and manufactured in Los Angeles. So I mentioned before that we had some issues possibly with the driver distraction. And this is a tech company called Continental, based in Texas. It's all about auto safety. They use AI for a wrong way warning system, which alerts a driver before they get onto the exit ramp of a highway by accident and are going the wrong way, and gives them some other information for safety. And then they've also created a switchable privacy display, which reduces driver distraction by basically having a really strong backlight to the passenger on their screen, and eliminating the view for the driver. Deirdre, I'm gonna actually turn to you right now and ask you, because I know this is one of your favorites. So let's talk about that for a second.
It is one of my favorites, because I love this one because it reminds us that we're still in a car. You know what I mean? I think that it's really easy to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, when autonomous driving takes over, when drivers are more assisted and do less and less, it's an encapsulated entertainment system, which it will be for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, it's still a car. And I think we as an industry oftentimes have this bad habit of taking old models and impressing them upon new screens. Like a mobile, it's just a smaller screen, so we'll just make the banner smaller. But I like this because it reminds us that we have to be contextually sensitive to the fact that it is still a car, in exactly the same way we're contextually sensitive when we're placing on-plane media. And think safety first, and remembering that we are part of people's commute. We're part of that part of their life, not just the entertainment part of their life.
Awesome. All right. I can't go to CES without showing a flying car. And this is the Jetsons era. So we've got the NFT having nothing to do with real non-fungible tokens. That's the name of the company. The NFT Aska, which you can drive, and then when you're ready to fly over, so you don't have to get stuck in traffic on in the Lincoln Tunnel, all you have to do is press a button, unfurl the wings, and change the dashboard as you see on the bottom, and take off. It's a 4-seater. It is currently available. It is not just concept. You can buy this. I don't know if you can legally do anything once you buy it, but you can buy this for $800,000. But if you order today, that's right, if you order today, it can be yours for $789,000. All right, now.
6-year-old who grew up on the Jetsons is so excited about that right now.
Exactly. All right, guys. Any other comments on everything we've just shown?
Well, we got a fleet on order for all Stagwell employees, of course. Well, I think one thing I think does sort of strike me. I think Deirdre's point's well made. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. There's clearly opportunities for, matching mobility and geolocation-based, communications, and that's all good. It does seem like in automotive, the barrier to entry for new entrants is lowering as a result of technologies. That sector has always been sort of the bastion of some sort of small number of high, scaled businesses and establishment businesses. And now there's a real provocation coming into that from new entrants, which I think, to your point, Jeff's going to mean all sorts of new ways to present and position brands and different types of models for different, more niche audiences. So excited to see what happens in automotive over the next two or 3 years as a consequence.
Awesome. Deirdre, anything else to add on the others?
Nope, I think let's get into the other halls.
All right, so now we're going to teleport over. We're going to leave the Las Vegas Convention Center. So buckle in, and we're going straight to the Aria, to C-Space. And Stagwell, like I mentioned, has a presence at the Aria. And we want to explain to you what they're showcasing. The Stagwell Marketing Cloud is very pleased to present there are 4 new companies that have been added to the cloud. Around, which is the AR creation tool, allowing for brands to build scalable consumer experiences for sports and retail settings. A few weeks ago, I was at a New Jersey Devils hockey game, and at one point there was a call to action on the screen to take out your phones and have a shared AR experience. And there were quite a few people that participated in that. And so we're starting to see that in concerts, in events, any kind of mass group setting. And so there's now a tool through Stagwell Marketing Cloud around that can be brought to accomplish that. Qualified influencer marketing is huge these days, and is only going to continue to get greater again as the creator economy evolves, and a lot of those creations make it onto not just phones but also to these huge, large television screens. One of the challenges that the influencer industry has is that bots are sort of skewing the data and not really giving you as much real insight into the campaigns that you would like. Qualified has a solution to that. It features industry-leading bot detection technology and platform analytics. Profit, spend a lot of time if you're in PR and communications deciding what you want to pitch and what angles you want to take. Now through AI and machine learning, you have the ability to have a little bit more of a sense and better the odds that your story is going to be picked up when you're pitching it. And the Harris Brand Platform. Data is coming from everywhere and insights are coming from everywhere. We are overwhelmed with data, but now here's a platform that will allow you to very cleanly get brand perception, equity, sales funnel, and the impact of marketing campaigns on customer behavior. And again, this was a really cool thing. We all very wish that there were a lot more attendees on the ground, and hopefully next year we'll be back to 180,000 plus attendees. But we want to make sure that you're aware that these are some really cool new opportunities through the Stagwell Marketing Cloud. All right, we're going to teleport again. We went to the Aria. You do not have to wait for your Uber. You do not have to wait in line for 30 minutes for a taxi. We just got to the Venetian Expo immediately. Look how quick that was. All right. Tech West and Eureka Park, it's expensive to show at CES. And a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, they realized that the organizers of CES realized they were in competition with South by. And so they said, all right, we've got to start an area for small startups. So they took a couple of small conference rooms in the Venetian and, set up a table for the startups each to have. And that was Eureka Park. That has exploded and grown and now takes up most of the, what used to be known as the Sands Expo is now known as the Venetian Expo. Once conceptual tech is now more readily available. So again, the speed to market has increased rapidly. This is an area they have lots of quirky things, but the tech is ripe for brands to leverage as they meet consumers where they are. And you're going to find innovation that can refresh traditional experiences. The story I tell is, you may remember for a while when you had the Xbox One had a Microsoft Kinect, the 3D body sensor. Well, before Kinect was Kinect, it was a small little side table at the Eureka Park area. So again, you find these jewels, you find 3D imaging within Eureka Park and Tech West. AR, VR. AR and VR has, as I mentioned before, exploded, especially with enterprise. The latest data from the Consumer Tech Association showed that VR AR headset sales jumped 60% in 2021, with 120% expectation in 2022. Empirically, I don't have the real data, but empirically from talking to colleagues and industry friends and people all around, if they didn't get an Oculus Quest over the holidays, their kids did. And so I'm really very interested to see what the sales numbers on the Quest will be. That is a platform that is ripe and ready for ads and integration. But there are others. If you don't like the idea of a headset, and we always hear that being the pushback, oh, I don't want to walk around with a heavy headset for all these hours. Well, don't worry, because you'll just be able to put a contact lens in. Now, I don't want to be the one that starts that if there's a short in the contact lens, but it is a prototype from InWith, embedded XR platform in contact lenses. Vuzix has been a leader in enterprise AR for a long time, so they have prescription-ready AR. You can have your teleprompter on these glasses. And again, Vuzix glasses don't look weird. They look like glasses. Luxid Labs was one of the first VR headsets to put in eye tracking and response technology into the headset. So it has a huge platform of emotional response, of biometric response. They've now kind of formalized that into a cognitive assessment and training system that can detect early signs of dementia and Alzheimer's and mood disorders. And finally, Nreal Light. Nreal was a Chinese company. I had the privilege of actually testing this a few CESs ago, and it's now available at Verizon stores. It connects to your phone, and it has a pretty decent field of view. So it doesn't look like you're looking at a box in AR. It really feels like the AR is integrating into your environment. And yeah, so that's going to change things. Now, what will change things is that there is pretty much a sure bet that Apple will finally enter this AR VR space in 2022. They've been hiring marketing people from AR and VR companies. It looks like this is finally the year we're going to see an Apple VR device or a VR AR, mixed reality device. The real question is, what will the price point be? Because the rumors have been they're going very high end, and the price point will be close to $1,000. That's not definitive, but could be close to $1,000, whereas the Oculus Quest is down to $299. So scalability versus quality, we'll see. This is a company called Inversion. Inversion is out of Italy. They're experts in 3D imaging in a 5G world. There is really no legitimate reason that we are still shopping like we're back in 1998 with narrowband. 2D flat photos, scrolling down images. We should be moving into this world of GLTF, which is the JPEGs of JPEG files of 3D imaging. And this company Inversion does really, really high quality work. You can see the reflections. You'll be able to see when it zooms in every fiber in that Fendi bag. And so that's part of what they do. They also create VR simulations, and we think VR commerce is going to be a growing area. You saw the immersive area with P&G, but this company is experts in the highest quality version of that, hyper realistic. So one of the interesting things from social perspective is deepfakes. Now, you may be familiar with deepfakes. If you're not, it's the ability to basically put words in people's mouths. You're able to, just by typing out a sentence, have the video, the person speak that sentence. And it's, you may have seen the President Obama one that went viral a few years ago. It's a challenge because it blurs the line between truth and reality. But it's a challenge that's here because a company called Camelo, it's a Korean-based social network, but it is starting to grow outside of Korea, now allows you to turn your TikTok-like videos into a deep fake video all with one click. So that's something to be on the lookout for. Yep. All right. So this is very cool. And I actually have seen that this is getting some media buzz already. This is Portal. Now, I've been explaining this as, imagine if you could change a transit shelter, a bus shelter out with this 3D box, which has holographic capability. So basically, I can be here and I could be playing guitar or piano or whatever, and all of a sudden I'm going to appear in a network of these transit shelters everywhere, really lifelike with audio. So you can have a concert in a box. Probably you won't want me doing that. You're going to want Taylor Swift or someone far more superior than my voice doing that. But what was very interesting is I actually saw another clip yesterday. It's not just for out of home. Clearly, we'd want to take a look at it for that. But it's also for your house. If you want to have a real life telepresence communication with various people in your home, it's about 7 feet. You put it in your basement, and now you can really feel like you're having a personal face-to-face connection. I didn't necessarily want to put this one in the presentation, and then I'm like, here's why. Smell-o-vision has always been a running joke in our industry for years. But this Israeli company has Smell-o-vision. It releases Sense Sync to Video. They have a video platform to sync the smell with the video. And the reason I put it in is because as movie theaters are reinventing themselves, they have to, into 4D movie theaters. Those have already started to roll out in many places. So, the splash you get when in Titanic, when the water comes up or whatever, but the various different senses that a 4D theater runs, why wouldn't they include the scent into that? They claim that the scent will only go to that person in that seat. So if someone was to turn it off, they wouldn't smell it. We'll see. Motion capture, as we move into the metaverse, as we move into VR and AR, becomes far more important. And this company, Perception Neuron 3, is the smallest self-sufficient motion capture sensor on the market. It's still a little pricey for the individual, but if you're a YouTube creator or an influencer, putting out $3,000 for a motion cap suit might be worth it. So we want to take a look at this because it's sort of democratizing things that were really left to high-end production houses in the past. So now, the one cool thing. So it may seem very pedestrian. A machine that allows you to do nail art, or a machine that gives you temporary tattoos. Almost feels like it might be something of a toy. But if you think about the fact that the world is about customization and personalization, and people want to now, people love, there are certain brands that people just love, these are libraries. You can upload your brands to the Nailbot library, the Prinker library. You can create different icons that represent your brand. You can bring these to your events. We will get back to live events this year. So when we get back to live events where we don't have to worry about variants, and you're bringing people back together for events, for $300 or so for the Nailbot or for the Prinker, bring it to the event. Because here's the thing. Once someone puts it on them, it's instantly social. It's instantly going to go viral. They're going to take a picture of your brand and share it with their friends. And so it's a very, very small investment that could lead to a great return. I have to be very clear. I have no financial interest in any of these companies. So, all right, finally, we have to end. It is CES. It is Vegas, sort of. So day drinking is fine. And it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So this is the I'll Be Home M+. So let's end the tour with some wine. This machine, think of it as the Keurig for wine, but it serves the perfect glass every time. It's Alexa powered, so you can say, Alexa, pour me a glass of wine. It's also AI powered energy saver. It minimal noise. It has an automatic vacuum feature. You pour the wine into a bag, and when it's done, if you don't finish it all, it seals it. It prevents the oxidation, and it keeps your wine fresh up to 8 times longer than any other preservation method out there. Before I do the takeaways, I am going to say cheers, and I wish everyone a happy and healthy 2022. I will look you in the eye. I will take a small sip. Good, I needed that sip. All right, so the main takeaways from the 55th CES. Technology is shifting to focus on key pandemic issues illuminated by the economic and social challenges that we have. Technology with purpose, as Deb Wall said from General Motors. Television evolving from entertainment-focused devices into a multifaceted video display. It's not just a passive viewing thing anymore. It is a portal. It is something to be much more involved with. And OEMs have made a tremendous progress in their transition to marketing companies from manufacturers. Automotive becomes this aperture for video, and the tools for video creators continue to evolve. And the metaverse, it is coming. It is overhyped. There's a meme going out about how many companies at CES had metaverse on their displays. But so that is CES. Now I want to go back first to before we go to questions. Just a quick recap, James, Deirdre, because we didn't get to talk about the last hall. So what was really cool? What did you think was the trend?
Yeah, amazing. And I think slightly terrified to think that my 9-year-old daughter, would find out about the tattoo machine. But I think what we're seeing there with this, I was very interested by the 3D imaging of product in digital. I think that was really interesting because I think what we've seen over the last 2 years is a massive acceleration to improving CX, UX, digital experiences, e-commerce experiences, but perhaps something that hasn't kept pace is the ability to represent a product online in a more immersive way, especially high value products. We do a lot of work in luxury, and I just wonder about high value items. I want to be able to see and really understand what I'm purchasing. So I think seeing an ability to really improve shopper marketing in digital and e-commerce environments, POS, point of sale, imagine that, to match brand experiences. So I think that could have quite a significant effect on ROI, on conversion, and the ability to convert a basket from something that's been observed to something that's been certainly bought and committed to. So I think that was one I really found interesting. Certainly a part of the digital ecosystem that hasn't maybe kept pace with everything else, and looks like it might be catching up now.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I think what was interesting to me is the new tools for creators, things like that motion capture suit, things like even the smell-o-vision, because I think as we are on the advent of a new world, call it the metaverse, call it Web3, we are on the advent of new ways of communicating and new ways of marketing. And so I think more tools in the hands of creators is going to bring us some really interesting content as we move forward.
Terrific. Deirdre, I'm going to keep it with you because I think you've got some questions from the audience.
Yes, we've got a couple of questions, and I think just enough time for about 2 of them. So let's start with this one. It's kind of to both of you guys. How do we think about data and privacy beyond the screen with the rise of robotics and other Internet of Things innovation starting to scale? What global, national, or industry efforts exist to try to manage the chaos/walled gardens/open source ecosystems emerging?
James, I'll let you start and then I'll chime in.
Certainly. Well, it's a fascinating question, isn't it? I mean, I think there's a couple of ways to respond to that. I mean, the honest answer is we don't really know yet, do we? And we're going to have to feel our way through that. But I think there's 2 principles that have emerged over the last, maybe 5 years. In Europe, you have GDPR. In North America, in California, you have similar legislation emerging. And really, that's coming down to, principles of permission, and also principles of consumer control. So I think that what we're seeing is, I would imagine that would extrapolate out into these new areas like robotics, where I still have to be able to give permission to hold on to that data within a robot's interface or a data file in any environment. And then I need to be able to have the ability to then change the settings and permissions over time as a customer. So I think the principles will endure even in new environments and new setups. So that would be my first observation, really, I think. Jeff?
So Gary Shapiro, who runs the Consumer Tech Association and is sort of the master of ceremonies of CES every year, actually addressed this a little bit in his opening statements. And it's nothing he hasn't said before. And it basically the entire tech industry is looking to the federal government in the United, being U.S. centric for a minute, to come out with national legislation. Because the alternative, as we're already finding, and in particular for our industry, is a huge challenge. If every state creates and passes their own privacy law, the ability to manage that and to really make sure that everyone is following up that leaves people and leaves marketers at risk with data. I think on a bigger level, or another level, is there are geopolitical consequences and challenges that maybe we're not thinking so much of. And I'm not trying to get overly political here. I want to be very clear. But there are issues where if two countries are not as friendly with each other, and one country has an app that's collecting data on the citizens of another, there's something to be concerned about potentially. And so there are those issues that have to be worked out. I'm going to sound like Oprah for a second. I highly recommend a book that I just read, and I'm forgetting the title of it, but it was written by Google's Eric Schmidt and Henry Kissinger and an expert in AI that talks about all these issues. So I highly recommend, if anyone has that interest, they read that. There's also an MIT professor called Max Tegmark, who also wrote a book a couple of years ago about privacy and data and AI. That is a worthwhile read. It's how we as humans will relate to AI. But there's no question we're already ceding control to artificial intelligence on some level. And whether we know it consciously or not, we've already sort of accepted the fact that privacy will never be as pure as it maybe was at one point. Doesn't mean we don't need legislation. We absolutely need clarification in legislation.
It sort of speaks to that gap, but Jeff, before we do have government guidance and legislation, I think it's incumbent on marketers to get our houses in order and operate in the right fashion, and that is about appropriate progress towards a first-party world that it has integrity actually, and not being opportunistic about it, because I think consumers have got the power to turn off now more than they ever have done. So I think that's something that we'll see more and more over the next 3 to 5 years while we wait for that guidance, I suspect.
Well, look, the most powerful word that you can do, we learned it in kindergarten, is the word please. Is just ask.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because I think, as you said, James, and as we wait for policies to come into place, a brand needs to understand what its own data policy is going to be and what feels right for that brand. And it is going to differ by brand. So let's jump to the second question before we wrap up. This one's fun. What marketing opportunities do you see with the advent of humanoid robots?
Well, I'll give a short and sharp answer. I mean, I think what we might lack in humanity of a robot being maybe a server or a customer service vehicle, you could say, you might replace with sort of accuracy and access. So if you're a robot at a server position, you might be able to know instantly what the next best product might be to offer that customer. You might know exactly what inventory is available to you without having to search something up. And, if we think about some of the bigger institutions, training staff to understand how and what is available and how to articulate that is obviously a huge area of opportunity and also risk. And you would probably limit that risk and limit that ability for service levels to go down. But of course, there's a massive question around the role of being able to kind of emotionally connect at the point of purchase, at the point of service. And I think that's going to be a real, interesting challenge over the coming years when we see robots come into that serving environment, into that service position.
I mean, right now, from a scale perspective, not humanoid robots, but robots are starting to deliver food on college campuses, within various areas, and the ability to incorporate upsell, cross-sell marketing opportunities within those deliveries, obviously, is an opportunity. The humanoid thing, I don't know. Again, your point is well taken. It can tap into a database far faster than we could to say the next thing they want to recommend you, or they know that you just purchased a product that's of the same brand, so they can thank you for the purchase of that product. But that humanoid robot, that we have some time on. That's not scaling any day.
I still kind of have fuzzy imperfections. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out.
And in the short term, there's absolutely the cool factor. So I see lots of space for robotics, humanoid or not, basically in event spaces and things like that as well.
Well, one thing for sure is it's not going to take his shirt off in the middle of a football game and walk off the field. So,
Yeah. True. Wonderful.
so with that,
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you so much for the tour. That was fantastic. James, thanks for being here as well. And thank you to everybody who's participated. Now, please remember to follow Stagwell on LinkedIn and Twitter for all of the new and upcoming things we've got to announce. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for everybody. Take care.
thank you.